feeling truly inspired, that you're feeling powerful, that you're feeling more in command of your inner world as you get to know yourself on a deeper level, that you have come to this understanding that you can change your body chemistry. If you're feeling low, if you're feeling tired, you can sit with that. You can change the dialogue. You can choose a new story of what you want to do in that day. You can find something in general, unless you're sick, unless you're, under the weather in a very physical way. If you're just low energy, feeling sad, going through something, we can sit with that. We have the power to change our body chemistry and reignite our spirit towards something we really want to accomplish. And here's a quick video I want to share with you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it
Can you hear that? I just want to confirm. Okay.
is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world. Try not to bash into the walls too much. Try to have a nice family life. Have fun. Save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
And I think that's really wise. I think he understood something that many of us have the opportunity to now understand. This knowledge goes back to Aristotle. Knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. And this beautiful quote by Nelson Mandela: learn to know yourself, to search realistically and regularly the processes of your own mind and feelings. Again, as we've talked about, is when we are in this place of fear, when we're below the line, we have access to the pain and suffering that we've endured in many times in our lives. As children, we don't know what's safe and unsafe, and we go into these places of fear, and those fears sort of settle until we have access to them again when we're in that same emotional state, is what brings it together. And so when we are below the line, it is really difficult to get above the line, because we tend to get dragged down by more and more of those thoughts, which is again why it's so important to be mindful of when we are sinking below the line, being mindful when our energy is low, or we're starting to get sick, or we're not getting enough sleep, because all of those things will drag us below the line. Illness will drag us below the line, and the fear of the uncertainty of our future. My hope is that during this course, I've given you some of these tools, some of those things that you can put into your toolkit, the mindfulness of your thoughts, some of the functional medicine types of things, of looking at your life in a way that you're feeding yourself the best possible medicine, which is your food. 4-7-8 breathing and being in nature, that we'll talk about a little bit more today. All of these things are tools, and all of them are beneficial as you get to know yourself and get to know how you can be your best self above the line. None of these tools are going to be perfect. I believe in combination. You can find the ones that work for you and to create your own special kit. I also believe that when we're at our best, we will influence others, and we can change the world as we start to heal ourselves. This quote by the Dalai Lama is a perfect example. It's just as ripples spread out when a single pebble is dropped into water. The actions of individuals can have far-reaching effects. As you think about who you want to be and you get confident, my hope is that the mask can come off, that you can be your authentic self. I want to commend each of you because you've been here over the last 6 weeks and you've had this growth mindset that you're looking at your life in a whole new way. We've been taught things through our parents, through traditions, through lots of things that, as Steve Jobs said, these things were created by people. And oftentimes they're created by people that don't necessarily know us or have our best interest in mind. And so getting to know ourselves, I believe, is what's truly important. One of the ways to get to know yourself, if you haven't experienced it yet, is to spend time in nature, to spend time just being in the calm embrace of where our natural habitat was. We've been living in a more and more modern society for the past 100 years. But before that, we spent most of our time in nature. Some of the work by J. Bryan Sexton talks about these things that are really important to experience, and we can do this in nature, whether it's joy or gratitude, the serenity of being in the peaceful place in nature, the interest in the small things and the beautiful things in nature, in hope, in pride of good work and things well done, having amusement with each other, having inspiration from some of the quotes that we've shared, the awe and love between people. All of these things are what positive psychology really helps us to understand. And J. Bryan Sexton from the Duke Patient Safety Center has done a lot of research, and I recommend that as a site to check out. I recommend writing your hero's journey, starting to write it, starting to see all that you've overcome, starting to see all that is beautiful in your life, and start to acknowledge those things, because what you look for, you will focus on, and what you focus on will become beautiful as you focus on that. I want you to see things with fresh eyes. This is my grandson, Jasper, and just watching him get to know things and get to see things for the first time is what I hope for you. To start to look for the smallest little beautiful details that you can, to start looking at the world and how precious it is in all these things that work together, to look for the creative elements in it, to get close to nature and bring out your creativity. This is just some fun painting I get to do, and these end up looking like fir trees and pine trees in the forest when I spray paint them. To collect things and just use your hands and smell the forest, to spend time in nature doing those things. And if you need a little help creating a habit, I just wanted to throw in a little bit by Charles Duhigg. It is estimated that 40% of our daily lives are dominated by habits, things we just routinely do. Whether we routinely now pick up our phones when we, sit down on the couch to drink our tea and then end up an hour later scrolling through things, whatever it is, we can change habits. We can redesign habits as we wish. According to Charles, creating our habits really means that we have these routines that we do, and there's some reward we get. There's some cue that we're given that triggers that routine that gives us that reward. My hope is that the cue can now be that you're falling below the line. The cue can now be that real sense in your belly, or that anxiety that you feel coming up your throat, that you start to feel that early on, that you're noticing your bodily sensations, that instead of maybe doing what you might have done before, which is whether it's doom scrolling, which again, my feed is pretty positive. So mine's pretty, it's positive, but not necessarily a great use of time. What is that? A different routine can you do? Can you get curious instead of judgmental when something pops up? I love that example. If you get curious and then you change your routine and give yourself that reward of, wow, I'm starting to understand this stuff. I'm practicing it. I'm getting really good at rewarding myself for the things I want to accomplish. This is a really silly example, but I tend to get my nails done, which I don't really like the look of them painted, but I get them done because my cuticles get really bad. And they get really bad because I don't wear gloves when I wash dishes. And so my hands get really, really dry. And so I get my nails done. And over this last week, I was thinking about that and thinking, well, what if I just changed the routine and actually wore gloves and maybe put some lotion on, put the gloves on and wash the dishes and seeing if I can do it. Now, I don't love it because I like touching things in real time, but my fingernails are already better. And so I'm changing the reward system of how I do things. And if I can get this new reward system going, then I'm going to feel better about the time I spend not getting my nails done, time spent, not, disliking whatever color it is that I don't like on my hands, and having hands that feel good, even though I work a lot in the yard. And so that's a silly example. And yet, the cue I can make is having a nice pair of gloves, a fun pair of gloves, a pair of gloves that I might like to wear to the routine of washing the dishes. And the reward is, wow, my hands feel good. My hands feel fresh and soft and not so dry as they usually are. And that's just a routine, a physical routine. But again, you can use it when you're thinking about dropping below the line, when you're starting to feel those sensations. How do you use that as a cue? How do you start finding the cues in your life? And maybe they're triggers. Maybe those triggers can be the cues that bring you into this new place and this new routine and this new reward. Now, as a leader, I like this because you're starting to understand your own motivations, I'm hoping. You're starting to see how you can change your life by either focusing on your thoughts, focusing on your bodily sensations, focusing on the reward system. And telling people what to do without a bigger story is a really difficult task. But I love this quote, and especially when it comes to wellness programs. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up the men to gather wood, divide the labor, and give orders. Instead, teach them to yearn for the vast and endless sea. And I believe what we're learning is a vast and endless sea of possibility when we start to understand that our belief systems are what limit us. Our beliefs in who we are and our story and what we can accomplish tend to limit us. What we're learning is that our minds are more powerful, that our influence on others when we help to bring them above the line. If you think about going into a presentation, and we know that if our audience is in fear mode, if the last speaker put them in fear about the toxins in the water and the fear of what is happening on this earth and climate change and the new, world order, who knows? If they've put you in fear and you're the next speaker, you're going to have to change it up because that entire audience is going to be shut down and looking for what's wrong with your presentation. That's a real time example of how this is so powerful, not only for us, but for those that we share the information with, for those that are willing to look at the impact we have on each other. When we go to sell something to somebody, not that I want to be a salesperson, but if we put people in fear, or if they're in fear, if they just, rushed in and they've been a business meeting, don't expect them to jump on buying your product if they just had an argument with their wife and everything's going wrong at home. So being able to understand how we influence others, understand how different things, including humor, which has not been part of my presentations, but humor is something I'd love to add to my life because I'm not very funny. But I know that humor can work, and I've started to practice with it in my own life when things get a little tense. We've had some events here where things can get a little tense, and I tend to get tense with it instead of knowing what I know now and being able to find a little bit of humor to bring my husband and I and the team back above a line instead of dragging us all down with worry or fret or fear of what might be happening. And so understanding this broader power that we have, this ability to influence not just our own mental state and our internal chemistry, but now we get to apply it for good. And in future classes, I'm going to have a little oath that promises we'll use this information only for good. But when we look at that, and then we think about what Barbara Fredrickson talks about, that a low performance group is one negative to one positive, right? That's balance. It's sort of one above the line and one below the line. And then you get a mid performance group has two above the line to every one below the line. And a high performance group is going to have 6 interactions above the line for everyone below the line. Now, below the lines are important because we sometimes need to go to this place of, we need to work on this situation. There is a safety situation. So, for example, if you're in a working situation, we're going to have to go below the line and create a little bit of fear if something's going wrong, if somebody's in danger, if we're creating a product that needs to be fixed, or something's happening in your life that needs to be fixed and there's some fear. There's always going to be times when we go below the line and express something in a fear-based state, because we need action taken. So I don't want to say there's no place for fear. Sometimes there is a place to create some fear so that something happens to fix it, so that we can protect those that we love. So there is always that. Now, again, I shared this last week, and I'm hoping that it will inspire you. If you didn't create a vision board, that you would. My good friend Pam sent me a note yesterday asking us to have a year-end talk and sharing her new vision board with me. And so she created hers, and we're going to talk about it this week, which I'm really excited about. If you haven't written your mission statement, please take a screenshot of this, or otherwise let it be a motivation for you to create this today so that you can move into 2025 in a brand new state of focus, where you can focus on your internal world and where you're going in an external world. When we focus on our own lives instead of others, we can be stronger, we can be more centered. My hope is that this was somewhat helpful to you, that when you look at who you are at your best, when you get really solid of who you are at your best, what that picture of you is, what are all the details that make you uniquely you, that you can choose those guiding values that are going to help keep you stable, help keep you centered, keep you strong, that you will choose the support people, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the tools that can help you stay your centered and your best. For me, this means being able to have an internal world focused on kindness, growth, and connection, and to be able to enjoy those things outside of my inner circle, but to know that they influence me and how much they influence me, so that I can regulate that and be my best self more often. My hope is that you are creating your own personal toolkit, and that this has been helpful to you along the journey.